Get ready for the Main Event Podcast. The guys are about to go live. All right, Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., the Main Event Podcast. Of course, I'm Stephen McCollum. Welcome to the show, as you hear in the intro there. Let me check the sound to make sure here. I did some updates yesterday, changed some stuff around, and didn't get it done in time. So that's why we had to move till Tuesday. All right, everything sounds good. So I managed to not screw that up. So that's a positive, of course. Of course, sporting ASU all week. We got the big rivalry game this weekend, Friday night, 5 p.m. against the U Arizona Wildcats coming up here. You know, I don't know how excited I am about this game. I haven't really been that excited about college football. We talked about it. I'm following it. But just so many, disappointing, and college football hasn't been that good this year. And just kind of disappointment after disappointment. And, ASU lost to UCLA on Saturday night. Late game. I didn't even watch it live. I didn't want to stay up till midnight, so I switched it to the next day. Watched it Saturday morning. But, it's rivalry week. Say that 10 times fast. And that's what we're dealing with. So, a little bit of excitement. Probably as we get closer to it, I'll get more excited. Of course, Friday at 5 p.m. kickoff. It's kind of a weird kickoff. I'll be on the blender filling in. They have TVs there, so I'll catch the first hour while on the air and then listen to it on the radio for the drive home. But, is what it is, right? So we got some news coming out. Basketball ended a little weird this year at a weird time. Of course, NHL hockey ended a weird time. Baseball ended on time, but they started a little weirdly late, right? And we haven't heard a lot about the NHL on what's coming up in terms of their schedule and everything. There's news today, breaking. So let's touch on that real quick here, where the NHL and the Union have cleared a huge hurdle getting the start date right, and they're eyeing a January 13th start to the season. Of course, there's been negotiating on when, before Christmas, after Christmas. The problem that the NHL have, which they had when they started after the COVID break, was a lot of their players aren't in America. They come from Russia, Europe, things like that, and they have to go through quarantine processes when they get back to the States to play these games. So the word was a lot of the players wanted to spend the holidays with their families at home and then come back, then come over after that, which means you have a 2-week quarantine time if you come over from the other states or the other countries, I guess I should say, and things like that. And then they're looking at a January start date and either a 52 or a 56 game schedule is what they're looking at here. And they've cleared the hurdles, just meaning that this is the agreement now. So now it's got a couple more approval processes to go through. The sides have communicated daily since Thursday, and the hope is to finalize a plan by the end of the week. By the way, they're going to change a lot this year also. It's going to include temporary divisional realignment, schedules and coronavirus protocols, and it all must be approved by the NHL's Board of Governors and the NHLPA's Executive Board. So you're going to see different rivalry, different divisions this year, right? Because Vancouver, even though it's right across the border, it is in Canada. They have strict COVID guidelines up there. People can't come and go. So teams aren't going to be able to travel into Vancouver without serious quarantines, things like that, which is one reason why they did the bubbles in the two states in Canada that they did them in, was because they worked with them, and it was originally going to be in Vancouver, and they couldn't do that because of the rules that they instituted. So it's going to be interesting to see how the schedule matches up for these teams because, for instance, Toronto Raptors are playing down in Florida because they couldn't get approval in Toronto to have teams go back and forth up there. They couldn't go back and forth. So it's going to be interesting what hockey does since they have, 5 teams in Canada. I don't know. I could be off. I could be missing one, or I could be adding one. They have at least 4 teams in Canada, probably 5 or 6 that I'm forgetting. Right? Ottawa, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto. They're probably forgetting one. Right? Whatever. 4 or 5 teams in Canada that they have to work around. And there was even a talk at the one time about a Canadian division only where they just play each other and whatever else happens after that. So, but some news for us hockey fans out there coming up and what we're looking forward to coming for this season. January 13th is the speculation date as of now. But stay tuned. There's going to be some big news on this regarding when the schedule comes out, how they schedule the alignment of the divisions is going to look, and all of that fun jazz. Because, of course, the divisions are changing next year with Seattle coming back into the league or coming into the league. Arizona's going to move to the Central Division, so they won't have a natural rival in Vegas or the Kings or the Anaheim Ducks anymore. And while Seattle goes into that side. So this is the year to do the realignment and change it up a little bit. If there was going to be a year on it, I guess this is the year to do it. Sure, why not? But we got to wait for the new year for hockey to start. One thing we don't have to wait on, NBA basketball. We're not going to talk a ton about this today. I know there's a lot of news going on, free agencies, all of that good stuff, but camps have started. First preseason game is, I think, tonight or tomorrow night for these basketball teams. Of course, you have all the drama, right, because it is the NBA. You have the drama of Harden wanting out of Houston. They traded Westbrook last week, and he's still there. Of course, he hasn't shown up yet. He's been going to birthday parties for female rappers. He's been hanging out in strip clubs, all breaking NBA protocols. So once he reports, he can't do that anymore. But the thing that cracks me up about this is the team is defending him, right? They're saying, Houston's saying things like, oh, he's COVID reasons is why he's not here yet. Well, okay, for the first time. Then the next day he misses. Then he missed a private practice that he had scheduled, and he didn't go to that. It's all what the NBA players do to get out of these contracts, to get traded. And the question is Houston going to buckle, or are they going to make him come in? They haven't started fighting him yet. They're playing that, acquiescent game. And it came out earlier today. I put it out on Twitter this morning that somebody close to Harden who knows the way he thinks, it's Harden's camp putting this out to somebody, that he is calling the Houston Rockets organization the Knicks of the West. Yeah, that's where they're going with his talks. Well, it's funny because Harden's the organization. Harden is the guy that they brought Westbrook in for him. They've done everything James Harden wants to be done in Houston. And now he's coming out and his people are saying they're the Knicks of the West. Just NBA is a bunch of giant freaking babies, and James Harden's one of them. He's the king of them, right? I'm just going to say it. But one thing that, so we'll watch this story. We all know how it's going to end. He's going to be traded or he's not, and it's going to be fun to watch Houston this year because James Harden's going to cry like a baby all the time. And this poor new guy as a head coach is going to have to figure out how to, not say mean things about Harden in public because that'll just make it worse. And Harden will cry more like a baby. Or they're going to trade him and get nothing back for him. And Harden's going to, just show to prove that the NBA is controlled by the players. And when they cry, they get their way. So whatever. However it goes, right? But one story I am enjoying in the NBA right now, just absolutely enjoying it, 1,000%, is Kyrie Irving comes out and basically just, he's asked because he's with the Brooklyn Nets and KD's with the Kevin Durant's with the Brooklyn Nets also. And they both played on a few teams. They both play with a lot of players. Kyrie Irving's known as a guy that wants the ball. He must have the ball. That's why Harden going to Brooklyn Nets is a weird head scratcher because they're not going to get along well, both wanting the ball. But Kyrie Irving comes out and he says that he basically praised Kevin Durant when they asked who would have the ball for the final shot when it comes down to that. And he was on a podcast, of course, I don't know what the podcast name is, so I can't say it right. Um, but Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant both say the Brooklyn Nets coaching will be a collaborative effort. Steve Nash is their head coach. They have Mike D'Antoni as an assistant. They have Amari Stoudemire as an assistant there. And the two stars of the team have come out and they said they see Nash as more of a collaborative role and not as the head of top-down leadership. Good luck coaching the Brooklyn Nets, Steve Nash, because your superstars are already saying they're not going to listen to you. Irving said, I really don't see us as having a head coach. Oh, it's on Kevin Durant's new podcast, actually, the et ceteras or whatever. Irving says, KD could be a head coach. I could be a head coach some days. Just absolutely hysterical. This is the NBA, folks. This is so great. And then Durant followed it up by agreeing with Kyrie Irving, calling it a collaborative effort, and naming assistant and former interim head coach Jacques Vaughn as someone who could fill the role any given day. Why even have a head coach at that point? Why don't the Nets save money? Why can't the Nets just save money and not hire a coaching staff if the players are going to do it anyway? Why even have the coaches there? You could have saved however much millions of dollars you're paying the whole coaching staff. Don't even have them there. Mikhail on the Facebook there says, I'm glad you said it. I think the NBA is at least 80% babies. Absolutely. Absolutely right. I mean, it's just great. I mean, we got to call it like it is. And people get mad when you call grown men babies, but Harden's acting like a baby right now, and he deserves to be called what he is, right? Kyrie Irving goes on to say, Steve is great, and I have a relationship with him that's going to build over time, bro. Steve don't know me from anything he's heard or he's heard someone else. If we worked out one time in 2014, but it's grown as just respectful relationship from afar. I saw him at the Hall of Fame 2 years ago, gave him a big hug, and now he's the head coach. And I think it's also going to change the way we see coaches. All I can say is good luck. Good luck, Steve Nash and the coaching staff in Brooklyn. You might as well just stand there with the clipboard because you're not going to be able to do anything. Get paid to be there, I guess, right? I mean, this is just how bad of an idea is it for any player, Kevin Durant or any player, to have their own podcast? So stuff like this, yeah. All it's going to be is a completely bitch session on players to get the message to their coaches without talking to them face to face and just to put stuff out in the media. That's all this podcast is going to be. It's hilarious. Um, so Irving also addressed crunch time situation. I mean, this was just full of golden nuggets. If you like to laugh at the NBA and realize just how ridiculous the NBA is right now, Irving also addressed crunch time situations and how he and Durant will play off each other and who would take the last shot. Right? Big decision for NBA players there. Irving and said that it would be about, quote, who was hot, quote, unquote, at the time, but explained that this is the first time in his career he feels like he has had a crunch time equal on his team. He said, this is the quote. If you know Kyrie Irving at all, you know why I'm laughing. He played in Cleveland with a certain guy named LeBron James. And he comes out and throws this dagger to praise Kevin Durant. And oops, forgot I played with Cleveland. So he says, quote, one thing I've always been comfortable with, I felt like I was the best option on every team I played for down the stretch. This is the first time in my career I've looked down and been like, that motherfucker can make that shot too. Unquote. Excuse my language. That's what he said. So Kyrie Irving comes out and says, finally, there's somebody to my equal that can make a final shot on this Kevin Durant podcast. So they've taken down the coaching staff already, the Nets, and basically said, we don't care what you have to say. We're going to do what we want. And now Kyrie Irving's saying he finally has a player on his team that can do what he can do because he's so great and special and nobody can be like him. And he finally has somebody. So, like I said, he played for a certain person named LeBron James. You might have heard of him in Cleveland. He played 3 seasons there with LeBron James. Some guy named LeBron James. He's been known to make a clutch shot here or there. He's been known to get some championships, under his belt. He's got one for each finger on one hand, for instance. But, just some guy named LeBron wasn't up to Kyrie Irving standards or anything. This is so great. The NBA is so petty. It's awesome. So, sorry there. So James, appearing as a guest on Road Trippin's podcast with Richard Jefferson, Channing Frye, and Allie Clifton, addressed Irving's comments. I'm sorry. He says, quote, this is so great. Quote, I was like a little, damn. Once I got the whole transcript, I was like, damn. Now, LeBron did make it clear. He made sure to read all the comments to make sure that he wasn't being fed something or he misunderstood his comments. But he read the whole transcript and was like, damn. No, he wasn't shortchanging you. He flat out said, you weren't to his equal. LeBron goes on to say, quote, I wasn't like, oh, you tripping. I've had game-winning shots my whole life. I was not like that. I was like, damn. Because I played with Kyrie for 3 seasons with the Cavaliers. The whole time when I was there, I only wanted to see him as be an MVP in our league. I only cared about his success, and it just didn't align. I just didn't align. And we were able to win a championship. That's the craziest thing. We were still able to win a championship, and we could never align. But I only cared for the well-being, both on and off the floor. And LeBron goes on to say, and it kind of hurt a little bit. Oh, Lordy. This is great. Oh, God. I'm sorry. This NBA, this pettiness podcast, these comments, the Brooklyn Nets are going to be golden this year. I mean, you got the Houston drama, right? If Harden stays there, there's going to be a ton of drama there. The Nets are going to be drama all season with apparently, head coach is not. I'm sorry, the collaborative coach. That's what I'm going to call him the rest of the year. The collaborative coach. He's not the head coach. He's the collaborative coach. And all the assistants, Amari Stoudemire and Mike D'Antoni, are the collaborative assistant coaches this year. The players will have a say. So, that's going to be drama. And now Kyrie just throws LeBron under the bus for no reason. Absolutely great. I love it. So, Mikkel on the Facebook here says, their podcast will be more likely be popular just because people, especially sports writers, will want to hear what they have to say. Real life soap opera information. That's exactly right, Mikkel. That's why they're not man enough to just come out and say this like in a press conference. They have to go to a podcast and hide behind a microphone, right? And to make these comments. And that's what is so great about it. And I mean by great about it, meaning just pettiness on that. It's so talk behind your back. But instead of talking behind their back so nobody hears, they want the world. Kyrie Irving wanted LeBron James to know that KD is better with him. He wanted him to know that. So he goes on the podcast and just blurts it out. It's great. So high schoolish. It's so junior high-ish. It's so petty. They're like grown children. Same thing with Harden doing the stuff he's doing right now. It's just great. And so just a lot of drama this year in the NBA. I'm enjoying it so far. I mean, it's just fun to sit back and watch these guys just act like school children, and they see nothing wrong with it. That's the best part. As they just go through their life like, what? Huh? Well, I don't know what's going on. There's nothing wrong with what I said. Oh my god, it's great. And so more to come on that, hopefully, right? As we go through it, we just laugh at it. That's all we can do. And just sit back and laugh at how stupid it's going to be. I mean, I'm already reading. I was reading earlier. Last thing on the NBA here. I was reading earlier about how LeBron's already putting his management schedule together, meaning the days he's not going to play and when he's not going to practice and everything. Because the article was, of course, was an ESPN article. Because why not? Because it's ESPN. And the article was basically saying that the 2.5 months they had off was not too short of a time frame for these NBA players, and their bodies won't hold up to another rigorous 70 game season. So you see a lot of rest from guys this year throughout the season, and the NBA has relaxed the big name guy. Remember how a couple years ago LeBron and them were taking off nationally televised games, and they were just benching themselves because tired, vaginas hurt, something like that. So NBA instituted a policy where you had to play unless you were hurt, like actually hurt. So all those guys had to play those nationally televised games. The NBA has now loosened those reins on those nationally televised games again. So we're right back again to you don't know when superstars are going to play. They're just going to sit out whenever. The NBA is a joke. It's going to be another joke of a year for them. Good luck to them, whatever at this point. Let's get into some college football. Last weekend, Ohio State had a test, sort of. They had a game, let's put it that way. We talked about it last week where Ohio State just not playing as many games as anybody else is still considered. I saw they killed Michigan State this weekend, whatever it was, 48-7, 100-4, whatever the score ended up being. It was a lot. And instantly on Twitter and all these places, Ohio State fans were saying things like, we should be playing Alabama. There shouldn't even be a playoff. We're good enough to play Alabama. Shut the hell up. You played 5 games this year. I'm still feeling the same way I am. But like I said, there's wrinkles involved every week. So let's get into some news here on college football, right? Michigan Wolverines got hit with COVID. They shut down their practice facility. They shut down everything. They are practicing right now, though. They're having limited practices right now. And Ohio State's coming up this weekend. And second straight day on Tuesday, they're having the limited workouts. They were just cleared to start practicing on Monday. Why is this game even happening? Michigan paused all in-person team activities due to rising COVID cases and canceled the Maryland game last week, of course, on December 5th. A decision on whether Michigan will play its game against Ohio State this weekend has not been made, even though limited workouts are a step forward. A source told ESPN on Monday that it does not guarantee the game will be played as planned. Harbaugh hasn't done his media availability due to COVID concerns and obviously getting everything ready yet. He's supposed to do it Monday. They moved it to Tuesday, and they haven't had it yet on there. I just don't get why we're even trying to play this game, right? I kind of want to have a blow up. I kind of want to see it blow up. I want to see Michigan not be able to play this game this weekend. And I want to see what the Big Ten does. So Ohio State has 5 games. Does the college football playoffs put them in there? Imagine being Alabama or Clemson where you played all these games and you have to go and play Ohio State. Let's say you lose to Ohio State. They're fresher. They're not as beat up because they haven't played as many games. Like, these are serious factors involved here. By the way, Ohio State's a 25-point favorite against. Why are you playing this game anyway, let alone because of COVID reasons? So you have that news coming out. Michigan is practicing, but you don't know if the game's going to play or not. So my argument is that a Texas A&M team that plays 8-9 games should go in over Ohio State, who only plays 5 or 6, right? Well, I told you there'd be snags. There's snags. Texas A&M has now postponed their game this weekend against Ole Miss due to COVID-19. So they might be able to replay this game because rescheduling the game will be contingent on any cancellation of games currently scheduled for December 19th. Of course, Texas A&M is scheduled to face Tennessee that weekend. Ole Miss is scheduled to play LSU that weekend. So, but even then, if they don't play this weekend, which they're not playing the Ole Miss game this weekend, number 5 ranked Texas A&M will have a maximum of 9 regular season games this year. They've only lost to one team if they win Tennessee next weekend or whoever they play. That's number 1 ranked Alabama. It's the only team they've lost to. Alabama and Florida. Remember, I included Florida in that right too. Like if A&M falters, Florida could step in. Alabama plays Florida in the SEC championship game. So assuming Alabama wins that, Florida will be knocked out of that. So that's why Texas A&M would be the team that would go into that spot. So does a 9-1 or 8-1 Texas A&M squad. Do they deserve to get in over a 5-0 Big Ten team? I think it's preposterous we're even having this conversation, to be honest with you. Where's the reward for Texas A&M for actually playing a schedule? Where's the reward for Texas A&M only loss? They go through the same COVID stuff, but their conference made the plans. Their conference made the decision to play more games so they could have flexibility and get as many games in as possible. And another team's division only decided to do 6 games. 8 games. 7 or 8 games, whatever it was. Knowing that they're going to have to cancel games. Well, we'll just have to keep our eye on it. Polls came out this week. Of course, the top 4 is the same. I don't get this Ohio State thing at all. And I know I'm going to get a lot of crap from my Ohio State fans. I've already heard it. I had a conversation with one of them the other day. He's like, well, you just don't like Ohio State. Actually, whether I like them or not, it could be any school in that rank. A 5-0 team is going to go in over a 9-1 team. I'm sorry, it'll be an 8-1 team if they win, because this weekend's canceled. The next game, 8-1 team. I get it, man. I mean, Clemson's a better team, right? Off the bat, Notre Dame's 10-0 at least. Alabama's 9-0. What doesn't? If I told you this, a team is 9-0, a team is 10-0, a team is 9-1, and a team is 5-0. What stands out? Just look at it factually, Ohio State fans. Quit telling me I'm wrong and quit telling me that I'm looking at it and I just hate Ohio State. Show me. Tell me why they deserve to go in with 6 wins. I don't know what else to tell you guys. I got this. I got the facts, the stats, the numbers, the facts, stats, numbers, whatever you want to call it. All right here. Tell me what gives Ohio State the benefit to go into that game. Are they better than Texas A&M at 9-1? Because if you say yes, you don't know the answer to that. Because not only that, we went through Ohio State's schedule. They haven't played anybody. They beat Indiana. Okay. See what happens. Keep our eye on that, of course. See what happens. Of course, the top 4 are the same, right? Texas A&M's 5th, Florida 6th. Cincinnati's still up there. They're 8-0. They're 7th. Indiana's there. Indiana had a big win this weekend with their starting quarterback out. Miami's a deadly team there in the ACC. Woo! They're up there at 9. How about this Coastal Carolina BYU game that happened over the weekend, right? I know a lot of people talk about it. It wasn't our 5-game pick 'em. And BYU picks up, goes across the country, 2 days' notice to play Coastal Carolina. And Coastal Carolina just rubbed me the wrong way. They seemed like bullies. They were like, we're going to show everybody we belong. And then the most annoying thing, so they beat BYU in that game. Then the most annoying thing that happens is all these people put Coastal Carolina in the playoffs. I tweeted out and said, good job by Coastal Carolina beating BYU. I didn't think it was possible. But let's face facts. Coastal Carolina doesn't deserve to be anywhere near the football playoffs. And they don't even deserve to be in a New Year's Bowl game. And in one of those top 6 games, they're going to get destroyed by whoever they play. Coastal Carolina's center is 6 foot tall, 210 pounds. The defensive linemen are going to eat him up out of a big school. You think they're going to be able to play Alabama? You think they're going to be able to play Ohio State? You think they're going to be able to Are they going to be able to play against Ohio State? Nope. Texas A&M? Nope. Florida? Nope. Indiana? Nope. It's just, you beat BYU, who's a really good team. But a lot of things went against BYU in that game. They had to travel across the country, 2-day notice, no prep time, right? They're crunching to study Coastal Carolina. Team they never played before. So if Coastal Carolina needs to be in this Bowl 6, it needs to stop. It's just not. They weren't that good. They barely beat BYU. BYU would lose to most of these teams themselves. You got Georgia 12, Oklahoma 13, the BYU's 14, Northwestern's 15. Then you get the first Pac-12 team, since Oregon sucks. Told you guys Oregon was going to be a problem this year. They got so much hype. But SC's ranked 16th. They're 3-0. Louisiana 17, Tulsa 18, Iowa 19, North Carolina 20. Another Pac-12, Colorado 21, Liberty's 22, Texas 23, Buffalo, and Wisconsin. I cannot wait until next year when things go back to normal and we don't see teams like Tulsa, Coastal Carolina in these rankings. It's so weird that they're in there, on there. So our 5-game pick'em, of course, me and All Access crew member Mikel do one-on-one things here. After my 0-4 start, we've been pretty much equal every week since then. We had Ohio State at Michigan State. We had Texas A&M at Auburn. We had BYU at Coastal Carolina. We had Colorado at Arizona. And, of course, UCLA at Arizona State. We always include the Arizona schools when they play. Of course, Ohio State beat Michigan State by a lot. Texas A&M did beat Auburn by a lot. BYU lost to Coastal Carolina. Colorado did beat Arizona. And UCLA did beat Arizona State. They were up early, came late, whatever. So I went 3-2 on the week. I had Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Colorado winning. Of course, I lost with Coastal Carolina and ASU. Mikel, of course, if I said his name properly, says Ohio State, Texas A&M, Colorado, and UCLA were his winners. And, of course, he lost with Coastal Carolina. So he picked the UCLA game right. Good job. 4-1. Good job, All Access crew. Love it. Love it, love it. So, I mean, the ASU game, they hadn't played in a month. UCLA's not that good. When they came out, they were down 14 points there in the first half. Had to struggle back from that. They started abysmally. They came back at the end. They just didn't have enough to win that game. What do you expect when they haven't played a month? This year's such a wash for them, right? So they're 0-2. So, like, again, it's I hate the term hate week with the passion. I can't stand it. But that's what a lot of people call this week. But the big rivalry games this week, and it's a big rivalry game. Both teams are 0-0. ASU's favored by 11 or 11.5 last I looked, which was yesterday. ASU should go down to Tucson and win this game pretty easily. And if they don't, It's going to be really disappointing. Even in this year of 2020, it's going to be really disappointing if they don't go down there and beat this U of A team. We'll have more on that, of course, on Friday's show. We'll have Friday's show in the morning, and that game's at 5 p.m. that night, so keep that in mind, yeah. So, college football, let's see really quick if there's other college football news that has come out here since we've been talking about it before we move on. Usually not a lot of college football news on a Tuesday. However, because of this weekend, Michigan and all of that stuff. So, yep, no, nothing. So, not shocking. We're just waiting to hear on what Michigan's going to do at that point as we move forward with their season this year and see if they get this Ohio State game in. And if not, then what's the Big Ten going to do? Something to watch, like something seriously to watch there, right? I'm fascinated by how they're going to play this. And then if they get into the playoffs, I get it. If Texas A&M and Florida, like Florida's going to lose again. Let's say Florida loses to Alabama, they're out. Texas A&M is a deserving team to be in that playoff at 8-1. If they win next weekend and they go 8-1, they're a deserving team to be in that playoff. That's where the argument is. So the best thing for now, if Texas A&M loses, I'm all in favor of Ohio State going in with only 6 wins. Because they would be, I would consider them one of the top 4 deserving teams to go in. There would be no other one-loss teams, I think, that are good enough to and play the way into that. Sure, you can say Cincinnati being undefeated could get into it. I think Ohio State's better than Cincinnati. I'm not too sure Ohio State's better than Texas A&M. You can't tell me they are. Texas A&M only lost to one school. That was the national champions, the number 1 ranked team. So that's my argument. We'll keep our eye on that like we always do, right, as we go through it. Now we got the NFL. What a weekend in NFL games. Of course, I was on the Blender yesterday. Got to talk a little bit about the games there. For the 5-game pick'em, we had Browns at Titans, Lions at Bears, Rams at Cardinals, Saints at Falcons, Bills at 49ers. So let's go through the pick'ems here real quick, right? So I went 3-2 on the week. Woohoo! Positive. The ones I missed were the Titans and the Cardinals. I picked the Lions. Thank you. Thank you very much. My other one that I didn't have on here, but I did give on the Blender, was I had Washington over the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that ended up being true last night. So I'm pretty proud of myself, picking 2 big upsets like that. Adam went 2-3. His misses were Titans, Bears, and Cardinals. Kaler went 2-3. His misses were Titans, Bears, and Cardinals. And then Izzy went 3-2. He went with me, but we had different ones there, right? He had the Rams winning, Saints and Bills. Of course, lost on the Titans and the Bears. All Access crew members, Mikkel and Intern. Little Miss Autumn there. 3-2 for Intern. She had the Lions also, Saints and Bears, and Titans and Cardinals. I think she just copied my picks. Now I'm going to take heat for saying that because I don't think she did. She sent it to me before, I think. And then Mikkel went 2-3. So you did awesome college football picks, but not on the pros one there. His losses were Titans, Bears, and Cardinals this weekend. That Cardinals game was another disappointing one. Cardinals are 6-6. We can go on for that forever. I will have my Cardinals rewind out tomorrow, Wednesday. So definitely take a look for that. Of course, Facebook, it'll be on YouTube, which will be posted, as well as all the podcasting systems. Reviewing this game closely. It's all things we've talked about before, but I got a couple of wrinkles into this moving forward on things that I've been putting together and studying up on, because it's the same problems over and over and over again, but they're getting worse. I'm just focusing on some defensive plays, calls that I've seen the last couple of weeks. Be an interesting Cardinals rewind this week, so definitely tune into that when it gets posted tomorrow. And Mikkel, let's see what he says here. He says, good call on the football team beating the Steelers. I gave the examples on the Blender last week. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday when we had Ralph with Harmon Solar on. And it might have been earlier in the week where I gave it the story there. Steelers have been playing like 3 games in 13 days. They had all that uncertainty on that Ravens game where a game was supposed to be played on Thanksgiving Day, didn't get played till that Wednesday. So it was on again, off again. Then they got hit with COVID during that stretch where James Conner went out against the Ravens, so he didn't play against the Ravens. He wasn't going to be able to play last night. So you had all these factors, all this uncertainty. Then they hadn't been playing well. They just lost Bud Dupree on the defensive side with a huge knee injury. They lost another starting linebacker last night with a probable knee injury on there. And it was just piling up and piling up. And then they're going up against a good Washington defense. And then you had a quarterback for Washington, Alex Smith, that doesn't panic, that plays the game properly, doesn't make bad mistakes usually. And I just thought that was adding up. And I was on the blender last night. I was a little worried that was going to happen. When they came back and they won the game, and Washington won that game. And it just piled up on the Steelers. Steelers lost another defensive guy. Steelers are going backwards right now. Yeah, they just lost one game, so it's not jump off the cliff. But these last 3 or 4 games for the Steelers, there's a pattern of them going backwards. They got a couple more tough games coming up. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep I got the hiccups, this winning streak going on that. So, like Hal says, if you stay with all positives on the rewind, it'll only be a 2-minute podcast. I saw your text into the show, Mikkel, where you were saying Jeffrey was right yesterday. I didn't go on yesterday until 4. They were trying somebody out at 3 to fill that spot. And I heard your little text yesterday, Mikkel, where you said that you're upset that Jeffrey's right. Jeffrey is not correct. There's a lot of short quarterbacks in the league. He makes it sound like Kyler Murray's 5'6" out there, and he's not. Drew Brees can't see over his linemen. He has to stand on his tippy toes. There's ways around it. It's just that he needs to learn to play that way and throw out of the pocket. Which, by the way, newsflash, everybody, all young quarterbacks need to learn how to throw out of the pocket in the NBA. I'm sorry, in the NFL. No doubt about it. It needs to happen. All that fun stuff. So, I get it. Expectations were high. We'll talk about that more on the podcast. Maybe a little bit more when we get to the games here. So, those were the picks this week. So, Week 13's games this weekend. There's a lot of good games this weekend and a lot of upsets, right? So,
searching for a new Kia? We're open for business and everything you need.
On there. A lot of upsets this weekend. The New York Giants went all the way to Seattle. We're going to talk about the Giants here for a minute because they are the Cardinals' next matchup in New York this weekend. The Giants go into Seattle and shut Seattle down 17-12. The Giants come away with the victory there. Of course, they're leading that NFC East division. A lot to play for there. And here's the thing about it. I don't know how to read this Giants team. Their defense is getting better. They were without Daniel Jones. Colt McCoy started this game for him. They don't have Saquon Barkley. They don't have a running game, right? But the Giants have a 4-game winning streak and sole possession of first place in the NFC East. It's all defense for the Giants. So can the Cardinals this weekend, if Seattle struggled with that Giants defense, what's the Cardinals offense going to do? Right? Kind of scary. Basically, what the Giants did against the Seahawks is they blanketed the Seahawks receivers, DK Metcalf and everybody. And basically, Russell Wilson's had a hold on the ball and either had to try to run with it, which they bottled them up pretty well there, or he had to throw it away, or he had to try to force the ball in there. Right? So, with Kyler Murray not running right now on that defense, it's going to be interesting. I don't know what's going to happen this weekend with the Giants' defensive side there. So, the Seahawks' offensive line's banged up. I get all that stuff, but they should have beaten the Giants on that. It's just the Giants had a good defensive play calling system in there. So, Colt McCoy and Alfred Morris helped New York win on the road in Seattle. I don't know if Daniel Jones is coming back this week. We'll have to see the injury reports as we go on here. So Giants are now 5-7 on the year. They beat the Cardinals this weekend. You're looking at 6-7 Giants team, right? The Giants have a defense that can slow down an opponent. They don't have an offense that's going to score a lot. Going to be an interesting battle this weekend. But the Giants did go to Seattle and get the win. Can't argue with that. Good job, New York Giants there. Broncos played the Chiefs this weekend. Look, I get it. Chiefs 22, Broncos 16. Look, I get it. I don't know how to phrase this. I said it yesterday on the blender, kind of, where the Chiefs look like they're bored. Now they had those issues at their hotel where they're woken up at 2 a.m. COVID scare. They all had to get retested. A lot of that stuff happened. They didn't get a good night's sleep, stuff like that. But it's like the Chiefs are let the other team stay in these games, and then they just score at the end and win it. It's like they just know they're going to do it, right? So I think the Kansas City Chiefs are just bored. They go out there and they're like, hey, we're going to win this game. Even if we don't play well the first 3 quarters, we know we're going to play well at the end and we're going to win this game. It's going to backfire on them at some point. But I feel like that's what they're doing while they're out there. The other side of it is the Broncos had to play a perfect game to even be in that game. And they did for a lot of that game. But I read an article earlier, and the headline was, when you come at the Kings, you best not miss. And that's exactly how you sum it up with the Chiefs. They are so good that you'll have opportunities against them, especially now in this regular season, because they are kind of, I'm not going to say take it easy, but they are kind of like in cruise mode right now, waiting for the playoffs to start. But you have to convert when the Chiefs give you something because they're going to take it back. And the Broncos weren't able to do that, on there. So, some question marks out of Denver now is Drew Lock's the franchise quarterback after this game. You got nobody else. I don't know what they're going to do there. So, but I just think the Chiefs are bored right now. I could be wrong. You guys let me know what you think. But that's just what I'm leaning towards. So, on there. My doctor was texting me actually right there. So my foot's been bothering me again, and that was my doctor that texted. If I don't respond in 2 seconds, who knows when I'll get a response back. So on there. So, yeah, not my right foot this time where I had the Achilles problem last year. It's my left foot this time that is bothering me, which is fun, right? Welcome to wintertime for me as we go forward. So another games that this weekend that came up. Saints beat the Falcons 21-16 this weekend. Taysom Hill had his best game. I still don't think he's an NFL quarterback by any stretch. But he looked better as like a starting quarterback this game than he did any other starts right there. He was throwing the ball deep. None of them connected, but he did throw the ball deep instead of these little checkdowns that he was doing. Right? He made his first TD pass since his college days. Right? Saints were really good on third downs on their offensive side. They completed at one point 10 straight first downs. And some of those were pretty long. So, Saints defense is really, really good. This Saints defense is going to keep them in the games. Now they're saying that Drew Brees is another couple weeks out before he comes back. So if Taysom Hill can get him 1 or 2 more wins going out here, Saints are in prime position here coming up for the playoffs. They're sneakily doing it at the same time, right? Atlanta is what it is. Atlanta had a lot of field goals to begin this game. Matt Ryan and co. couldn't put the ball in the end zone. Julio Jones was back from his, I think it was a hamstring injury, but he made some spectacular catches, actually. That were pretty good. So Saints did clinch a playoff spot with this because they won and Chicago lost. So now they're obviously focusing on the division title. They still have things to play for, as always. And Saints are the number one seed there in the NFC as of now. They're 10-2 on the year. And the interesting stat that comes out of this game, Sean Payton, 8-0 when Drew Brees is not under center these last 2 years. 8-0. Last year he went 5-0 with Bridgewater there when Brees was out, I believe, with a thumb injury. And this year, of course, with his ribs and everything, 3 games this year so far. You see conflicting reports that he could return next week if he's healthy enough. But I was reading some stuff early this morning saying he's probably got a 2 weeks to go, a week or two to go. And if your Saints are winning without him, let him rest some more. Right? Let him rest until he's healed. Why force it? Why force him back into there when you're winning with his backup in there? Right? So I had to take the comments down for a second there, and I bring it back up again. And Miguel says, because I'm ripping on him about saying that his text was Jeffrey was right about the Cardinals win, and he does clarify it. He says no. Miguel says I said he was correct about the defense, not my Sooner quarterback. Well, he lumps it in as you're talking about the quarterback, so that's what he thought it was. So I just assumed that as well. But got to clarify that when you text in. But it did, and I've seen the texts that come in, and Jeffrey will change them to make him look right a lot of times. So a little behind the scenes there for you as well, as he has no problem changing stuff to make him sound right at times, and it's funny to watch. So, the Cardinals' defense is not hot trash, by the way, hot garbage as he calls it either. They are a walking mass unit right now. They've been a walking mass unit all year. They've been having to move guys in and out. It's impressive that they were in that game. The Cardinals' offense, the Cardinals' defense was on the field for most of that first half. Just the fact they were down by 7 at halftime was a huge defensive stand by the Cardinals' defense. Eventually, you're going to break when you're out there that long. The Cardinals' defense is not hot garbage like he calls them. He's absolutely too harsh on them at that point. And do they have problems? Yes. Do they have issues? Yes. But when you're on the field the whole first half and you only give up 14 points to the Rams, that's a hell of a defensive stand. It's a hell of a defensive output by them. Cleveland Browns 41, Tennessee Titans 35. This game was a blowout for most of it. Titans came back there towards the end. Are the Cleveland Browns for real? I don't think they are. I think they're a good team. I think they're a better than average team. They deserve to go to the playoffs, but I don't see them doing any damage in the playoffs. But this one was a shocker in how big they were up, right? Derrick Henry had his first fumble in a long time. 375 touches Derrick Henry had before he fumbled the ball. And then the Browns just scored like crazy on their next 6 possessions. Baker Mayfield actually had a good game. 25 of 33 for 334 yards, 4 touchdowns, all in the first half. And his second best single game passer rating in his young career. I got to sneeze here in a minute. I mean, the Browns hadn't beaten anybody good. Their record was a bunch of bad teams. This is the first team they've beaten that a contending team. It was the first one. It was the Titans they took down. And the Browns took control early, and they dominated the game early. I don't know what to think of these Browns. Their defense is pretty good. Myles Garrett's back there. Their defense is pretty dang good. They were able to stop Derrick Henry. It's impressive. Browns defense is impressive. And as long as you have Nick Chubb's in there, they can hand the ball off to him. He does a good job. The question that you got right is the Titans just blew out the Colts a week before, and they came out flat. Did they come out flat because they overlooked the Browns? Were they still on a high because they beat the Colts? We don't know. Titans defense was bad in this game. Their offense, Derrick Henry didn't get anything going. Their offense was bad also, but their defense was atrocious. I'm guessing this is a one-off for the Titans in this game against Cleveland. It was a bad time to have a one-off with them, right? You can't sleep on Cleveland. They're good enough to beat you if you sleep on them. But there we go. Green Bay Packers 30, Philadelphia Eagles 16. The notable news out of this, if there's really notable news, of course, Aaron Rodgers. Only 6 other quarterbacks have reached this before. And well, I don't have it in front of me. I thought I had it here in front of me, and I don't. Touchdowns without an interception is outrageous with him this year. It was his. So 3 more touchdowns with no interception. So it's his 8th such game this season. And there's a bigger stat here that I have written down, and I can't find it in my notes. That's hilarious. 400 passing touchdowns on his career. 6 other quarterbacks. I don't have the quarterbacks before him. I don't know why I didn't finish these notes. Well, that was anticlimactic. Sorry about that, everybody. But Aaron Rodgers is still going strong. But the big news out of this game, obviously, is Aaron Rodgers can still dominate a game if he needs to. But the other news out of this game, of course, is Carson Wentz benched. Third quarter, Philly was down 20-3. Jalen Hurts went out there. He's a running quarterback. He doesn't, young quarterbacks, when they can run, they lean on their running side. When they don't see what they like, they don't see what they want to do, they run the ball. He absolutely did that. He was 5 of 12, 109 yards, 1 TD and an interception for Jalen Hurts. He did have 3 sacks. Carson Wentz was only 6 for 15, 79 yards, 4 sacks. How do you go back to Carson Wentz when you benched him like that now? Eagles have issues. I've told you guys before, Doug Peterson to me is on the hot seat. I think he's going to be let go at the end of this year. I think there needs to be a change in Eagles land. And I think this is the year they're going to do it. I don't know what's going on with Carson Wentz. You've never seen a quarterback fall off this fast. Ever. Right? Of course, we talked about the Rams and Cardinals a little bit. And, of course, I'll have the Cardinals Rewind podcast coming up here. I don't even know what to say about this game without getting angry. Kyler Murray, the Rams defense, which is a really good defense. Front 7 is great. And I told you guys, if Kyler Murray isn't going to run the ball, he's in trouble. And Kyler Murray was in trouble. The Rams forced their will against this Cardinals offense. They told the Cardinals offense what they were going to do. No receivers are showing up anymore. Where's Christian Kirk? Where's Andy Isabella? Where are these guys at? D-Hop had the best cornerback on him all game long, and no other receiver would step up. When the Rams offense is clicking, they're a damn good team. It's when they're bad, they're not. And they were bad going into this game, but man, did they wake up. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. Huge, dominated. Cam Akers dominating on that running game when he wants to be. Just the inconsistency of this Cardinals team. And everybody's saying that the opponents have figured the Cardinals out, offense out. The Cardinals don't even know what their offense is. Every game, it's some different strategy on there. They haven't been consistently going into each game with the same strategy at all. Look back at it. I do the Cardinals podcast, Cardinals Rewind. Every week we're talking about a different thing that wins them the game on offense. Their offense is not consistently put together. And Cliff Kingsbury even came out and he said, when asked what's their offensive identity, and his response was, I think we're still trying to figure that out. It's week 13 of a season. So it does look like the Cardinals are the third best team in this division, which is fine. They fell out of the playoff race. They're now in the 8th spot. The Vikings went ahead of them with their overtime win over Jacksonville. So they're still in it. They got the Giants this week. They still have to play the Rams again. Final game of the season. Might be a big final game of the season for the Cardinals. Raiders at the Jets. Fantastic game here. If you are if you're a Raiders fan, you're happy with the win. Although some of my Raiders fans aren't happy with this win. They all jumped off the bandwagon anyway. And I'll never understand a team winning and then everybody saying, we don't deserve anything because we won. Yeah, you run sloppy. Yeah, you barely beat the New York Jets, the worst team in football. But you won it. Be happy about it. Of course, this is the game where the Jets had the lead. Last play of the game. Greg Williams does a cover zero defense, which basically means you rush in the quarterback. Derek Carr steps up, hits Henry Ruggs for a touchdown to win the game with no time on the clock. Abysmal defensive play call. We can make fun of Adam Gase, which trust me, I want to do. He's over there on the sideline yapping it up with another coach. Claims he hears the cover zero call in his headset. Doesn't call timeout. They have one timeout left. He doesn't call it. None of the players call it. They all go through with it. And they lose the game with just an abysmal. Last play of the game, you send everybody back to the end zone, right? And you make sure they catch it in front of the end zone and you tackle them in front of the end zone. That's the proper play call. I'm not even a defensive coordinator, and I know that's the proper play call. Jets did something else. Adam Gase says he heard it, didn't call timeout, but he wishes he would have. This team is a joke. And, of course, they fired Greg Williams Monday morning, which I put out on Twitter. You make that bad of a defensive play call, you should be fired before you even get on the plane. Jets continue to Jets. Darren Waller had a great game for the Raiders. The Jets actually look pretty good offensively, right? They did lose Frank Gore in the second play of the game with that concussion. Ty Johnson, 104 yards and a touchdown. Josh Adams, 74 yards. The Raiders got zero pressure, basically, on Sam Darnold back there. But the Raiders hold on to win that. Raiders might miss the playoffs this year. They're right there on the edge, but the Raiders are going to be damn good in another year or two. This might not be their year to get it. Shocker of the weekend here. New England Patriots 45, Chargers 0. I moved Anthony Lynn to my hot seat last week, 2 weeks ago. Just the offensive play calling. The issues that are happening on the offensive side, an experienced coach should be making, and it's costing them games. He had a lot of those blunders in this game as well. But it didn't cost them the game because when you're down by 45 points, timeout, bad timeout here, or going for it on fourth down doesn't really matter, right? But Bill Belichick has a history of taking young quarterbacks and confusing them, doing all that stuff. That's exactly what he did with Justin Herbert. But to score 0 points and be able to answer the Patriots at all is bad coaching. They were outcoached in that game. Anthony Lynn was. Anthony Lynn, I think, isn't going to make it past the end of this year. He's definitely on the hot seat. See if he goes any farther. You have Lions and Bears, as you heard in the 5-game pick'em. I did, and intern picked the Lions this week. Everybody else had the Bears. I thought there'd be a post Matt Patricia firing pickup by the Bears, by the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions can still, if they win out, they can still have a shot to make the playoffs. Matt Patricia would blow these leads. The Detroit Lions won this one. I thought it would happen this week with the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky, he had a fourth quarter fumble that led directly to the loss. It was 3rd and 4 from the Bears' own 17-yard line. Trubisky didn't feel the pressure. He was stripped by the Lions. Detroit recovered it. Adrian Peterson then scored the game his second rushing TD for the game, and the Lions won the game. The Bears should have won that game. They were up comfortably most of the game, and they gave it away at the end there. I don't think that's something the Lions would have done with Matt Patricia on there, but they won it. Matt Nagy, of course, is on the hot seat. I expect him to be gone at the end of the year also. Bengals at Miami. Of course, the only thing big news out of this game is how many people are going to get suspended. There's going to be fines. People got thrown out of this game. Dolphins coach Brian Flores went on the field going crazy about Mike Thomas, Bengals, for unnecessary roughness and kick catch interference on consecutive punts. Dolphins lost their minds about it. Rightfully so, by the way. Devontae Parker was thrown out. But Miami's defense stepped up after that. The Bengals went to cheap shot mode, and Dolphins woke up and won that game. Colts and Texans, 26-20 Colts. If Deshaun Watson had any offense, man, this kid is special. He just needs some offense. Will Fuller's out now with his suspension. D-Hop, of course, is in Arizona. David Johnson returned this week from his concussion. Was all right. Didn't do great. Phillip Rivers is hurt. He's got a foot injury now that's going to require offseason surgery. So he's going to have to play with that now for the rest of the season. But the Colts held in there. They got their players, DeForest Buckner, back from his COVID list. And Indy's defense was back to looking like the number one defense in the league after a week of struggling, right? They got to Watson and made him hurry, which is how you beat the Houston Texans, but the Colts won that. Then the Vikings beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, 27-24. I was rooting for the Jaguars because, like I said, we needed Minnesota to lose in case the Cardinals lost that game on Sunday to the Rams. They would have kept that 7 spot. But Minnesota wins in overtime, 27-24. Mike Glennon actually looks like a decent quarterback there for the Jaguars. And, there's just so much wrong with Jacksonville. They should have won this game handily. They didn't convert on a couple 2-point conversions. They didn't. They had a bad fumble. James Robinson had a fumble. They couldn't convert on third down. Actually, I think the James Robinson fumble was reversed, but then they didn't score. They didn't do it after the third down there. At halftime, it was a 9-6 ball game. Minnesota was losing that game. Had 44 yards on the ground as a team. Dalvin Cook had 21 of them. Vikings were 1 for 5 for third down. Vikings aren't a good team, but they won the game. That's important, obviously. But then now they hold the 7th seed spot because the Cardinals lost. They're tied 6-6, but they get the tiebreaker for whatever reason. And then they go, right? Oh, there. So, Mikhail says, yeah, I saw your email, Mikhail. I was actually going to respond to that here. I was getting ready for the show here. But he says, any thoughts on the Cardinals not having an OC? I believe that coach needs help. Yeah, and I'm going to respond to your email a little bit more as well. But, yeah, I don't know if he needs offensive necessarily play calling help. But he needs somebody in there, a veteran coach by his side that's going to help him pick out the calls better, right? So he's got the right play calls in there. But I think what's happening with the Cardinals is they're in a rut, right? And sometimes when you're new at something, like it's a second year, it's Kyler Murray's second year. So I think it's exasperated a little bit right now where something happens in the game and they're like, okay, let's do this to combat that, right? And then it doesn't work. And then it's like, okay, now what do we do? I think that's where they need the help. Kyler Murray also, he needs a veteran quarterback in there to say, hey, when you go to scramble out and the guy's standing right there, this is what you need to do to get around that, to try to get around that. They need that type of voice on that. I think that's what the Cardinals are missing, being a young head coach and a young quarterback, is they're in this place now where they're like, okay, we've tried to get out of this. We can't get out of this, and we're just stuck in it. And that's where they need a veteran presence in there on that sideline. I can kind of point it out and say, hey, let's do this. Here's how I would get around it. Here's what we need to do to get around it. So I don't necessarily know if an offense coordinator is that answer, but definitely a consultant of some sort or somebody in there that can help them during the week, especially when they're game planning. And, hey, this is what happened here. Why didn't you do this? Give them different ideas and different ways to get out of this funk that they're in on the offensive side. So I think that's imperative, especially in this offseason. Call them an offensive coordinator if you want to, but they need somebody in there with experience to these situations that can get them out of it. Look, every team goes through this, guys. Everybody's jumping off the bandwagon of the Cardinals, right? But every team goes through this. You have a Super Bowl winning head coach in Dallas right now, Mike McCarthy, that is struggling to get out of the funk that his team is in. This guy won a Super Bowl. This guy's been to multiple playoff games. And there's times during a game, and games happen where you're like, what was he doing? How many times have we been over that with the Cowboys this week, this year, where we're like, what was that play call? What were they doing there? The fake punt on the fourth. That was to energize the team and try to get. It was horribly wrong. You shouldn't have ran that. But he was trying to run something, right? Veteran head coaches go through this stuff. So you need somebody in there that can help you get out of it faster, because they've been in it for 4 out of 5 games now, and they're not getting out of it. It's the same issues every time. And it happens in the NFL. Teams figure you out as you go through it. Throughout the season, you're a different team in the second half than you are in the first half. And the thing that I don't see happening with the Cardinals right now is they're not growing, meaning they're a better team than they were last year. But now what the hiccup is they're in this place where, okay, they figured out how to stop us running this type of a play, right? The Kyler Murray running, scrambling outside play. So now what do we do to get around that? What can we run? What can we play call to surprise them, get that going for a little bit, and then that'll allow us to go back to what our bread and butter is on that play. That's what I think the Cardinals are missing on the offensive side is, and this happens to every coach. I can name Super Bowl winning coaches that go through the season. But those coaches can work themselves out of it because they have the experience and know kind of what to do and kind of how to combat it. This coaching staff doesn't. They're a young coaching staff. And they don't necessarily know how to get out of it. And that's what they're trying to figure out right now. And they need to get out of it, obviously. So that's kind of where we're going. So the thought on that is a veteran presence, like I said, call him an offensive coordinator if you want to. But somebody that can give a fresh perspective and somebody that's been around the block a lot is what the Cardinals need on there. Absolutely. So, but I did see your email. I was going to respond to it after the show. So I'll get some thoughts back to you on that, Mikkel. So on there. So, I mean, NFL's not people get paid to win games against you. People literally, all the New York Giants get paid to do this week is to focus on how do we beat the Cardinals? What do we put together for our team to beat you? Right? They put together this strategy, and that's all they do all week long now is, okay, we're going to implement this stuff to beat you. We think our defense should do this to beat them, to counteract their abuse there. This is what we'll do when they do this. This is what we'll do when they do that. That's literally what the NFL is. And when something works, everybody copies it, right? So Bill Belichick showed a system that worked against the Cardinals. So that's all you've seen those last couple of games is the same system being used because the Cardinals haven't figured out how to get out of it and beat it. And they need to get out of it and beat it faster than 4 out of 5 game losing streak. The good coaches, Pete Carroll just lost to the New York Giants 17-14 or whatever that score was. 17-12. Pete Carroll, we would all agree, is a good head coach of this league. Pete Carroll has been around the block and knows how to solve problems and get out of it. And Pete Carroll couldn't figure out what to do on Sunday to get his team in a position to win on that. It happens to coaches and teams. But one thing I will bet on is it won't happen again next week with Pete Carroll. That team's going to come out with a different attitude and different styles next week than they did last week. And that's the difference between a coach with a lot of experience and a younger coach like Cliff Kingsbury is that right there, that experience and what allows you to get out of it. And that's what the Cardinals, I think, are lacking at this moment. They better solve it quick. They have 4 games left. They better get out of it and solve it because they're in a lot of trouble if they don't. Of course, tonight last night you had Washington football team go up against the Steelers. I called this game 23-17. Washington football team wins this. Alex Smith, still a phenomenal quarterback. His legs bleeding all over the place. He don't care. He's like, flesh wound. I'll just bleed all over this field. I don't care. I got this. And they go out there and they beat the Steelers. Fantastic. Washington football team isn't going away from these Giants. Giants have competition in that division. And like I said, Steelers were blessed early on in the season with their schedule being the way it was to get to 11-0. And it's caught up to them with these last 3 weeks scheduling. Not because of their problems either. And it caught up to them, and that's why they lost this game. I think if it was a regular situation, the Steelers would have won this game. Not only that, but here's another example, Cardinals fans. For example, Steelers are a run-first team, right? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They've been this way for 100 years. James Conner's been out the last 2 weeks because of COVID, and they've struggled to run the football. And guess what else they've struggled to do? Throw the football. It's no difference than the Cardinals, guys. Cardinals' identity was to run with Kyler Murray and open up the offense. That gets taken away from you, and you struggle at your offense. Steelers are experiencing the same thing with James Conner being out as their running back. They can't run the ball as much. Teams are coming down, and they're making them throw the ball. And guess what? They're not throwing it as well either. It's a different offensive style. They're not used to doing that for the Steelers, so they're struggling moving the ball. Yeah, they've been winning, struggling it. Last night they lost, of course, but they struggled against the Ravens, throwing the ball and running it also. But these things happen, so they have to figure out how to get past it and win. The Cardinals are not a good enough team to overcome that disparity, whereas the Steelers generally are, the Chiefs generally are. For instance, Green Bay can win. Green Bay can have an absolute terrible game of Aaron Rodgers throwing the football, and they can still pull out a win at the end. Cardinals are not at that point yet. Just as an example, if I make any sense at all. Right? Then last night here in Glendale, of course, San Francisco's hanging out here in Arizona for a few weeks, and they played the Bills. Bills came back to the scene where they lost the Hail Mary, and they just dominated the 49ers last night. 34-24. 49ers. I thought the 49ers were going to be able to run all over the Buffalo Bills defense. Bills defense is not good with running. Yeah. Josh Allen for the Bills was just dynamic. He is a stud back there. When he's on, he is on. 4 touchdown passes. Bills are a threat in these playoffs. I think they're going to be a surprise team. Watch out for these Bills on the deal, right? In the playoffs here. So, 49ers are going to fall a little bit. They're still severely injured. They're still dealing with all that stuff. And they played a really good team in the Bills. I think the Bills did a good job of stopping Mostert last night running the ball. I thought that was going to be a focal point, the way the 49ers would win that game. And they shut it down. They said, hey, Mullins, you beat us. Mullins didn't beat him, so that's where we stood at, right? So, those are the games. Of course, tonight you have the Cowboys and Ravens play tonight. I believe 6 p.m. our time. I think I'm on the blender again today from 4 to 6. The first hour, they're trying somebody out again, so I'm not there till 4 today again. So, definitely tune in from 4 to 6 at least today out there. See how that goes today. Of course, tomorrow I'll be on the blender the whole time, 3 to 6, and then my show, the main event, from 6 to 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So tune in Thursday, and then Friday morning I'll have the podcast here Friday morning. Then the blender, and of course ASU U of A 5 p.m. Kickoff on Friday night. So kind of the schedule this week. Looking forward to it. Getting everything back on track as we go. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everything is going well for everybody out there. I know we're back to weird times. Holidays are approaching. I've got to get Christmas shopping. I'm slacking on it. Like a lot slacking on it. Getting cutting down the time here. So get out there and get your Christmas shopping done if you haven't done it yet. So, but we'll see you all. Like I said, on the blender if you're listening. If not, Wednesday night main event on 1580 The Fanatic. Download the app if you're out of market, or even if you're in market. Easiest way to listen. 6 to 8 p.m. And then we'll of course be back here Friday morning. I'll get this up on the podcast systems here in just a little bit. See y'all then.